Hello, I'm David Cox with the Open Door Churches in Salem, Oregon. Open Doors is a partnership between the 5 United Methodist churches in Salem. We share pastors, we have a common youth group, we do together the things that make sense to do together, but we have separate finances and we make separate decisions for our churches. So our project, the Solar Project, started in the First United Methodist Church in an adult Sunday school class. I'm a part of that class, and I can tell you week after week, no matter what the assigned topic was, we turned the conversation to global warming and to the environment. And we were upset. We were upset because we didn't think the government was doing enough. We didn't think our private industry was doing enough. So week after week, we would talk about this. And finally, we realized what we were saying was we didn't think other people were doing enough. And when you say it that way, you almost immediately have to ask yourself, okay, well, what are we doing? We had to admit we weren't doing anything either. So the idea came about, well, let's put solar panels on the roof of the First United Methodist Church. We thought we could do that. We formed a little committee. I'm on that committee, and started exploring that idea when the other churches, the other Open Door churches, heard about this. It wasn't long before 2 of them joined us. Then all 4 joined us. Within a month, we grew from 1 church to all 5 churches to explore this project. And I have to admit, we had our doubts. At that time, we knew there was only 1 church in Salem with solar panels. So we thought right away, well, if this is easy, how come there aren't others? How come there's only 1? And then we knew our buildings were old. In fact, 2 of them have a historic designation. So we didn't know how that would factor in it. We didn't know if the roofs were the proper orientation. We didn't know if the roofs were strong enough. We didn't know, of course, how much it would cost, where would the money come from. We just had a lot of questions. And lucky for us, it was about that time we met Dan Orzek and learned about the Clean Power Co-op. And the first thing that Dan did for us was he put us in touch with solar providers and solar installers. So we ended up asking a different solar installer to go to each church, not to give us a bid, but to just judge the feasibility of putting solar panels on those buildings. Our original intent was we had hoped we could replace about 50% of the power that we bought from PGE with solar power. But after we got the feasibility studies back, we learned we could do better than that. We learned that we can raise that on average to about 70% of the power we purchased from PGE we can replace with solar power. So that was our project. It was about that time that we also decided to add a battery to the first church project. It makes sense to put a battery there because the church is centrally located. It's near Willamette University, near the Capitol, or within walking distance of the state buildings. So it's a good place to meet if you're planning a response to a disaster or to an extended power outage. It's a good place. And our battery isn't large enough to light the whole church, but we dedicated it to the kitchen area, to the dining room area, to a big meeting room, and to an office. So we think that's a core of the facilities you would need to come up with a response to an extended power outage. It was also at this time that we finalized our finance plan. We had originally thought we could finance the project with Energy Trust money, donations from our congregations, and crowdsourcing from Dan Orzek and the Clean Power Co-op. But we also put in for a couple of grants, and we were surprised we got those grants. So we didn't need the crowdsourcing. So our financing came strictly from our congregation, the grants, and Energy Trust money. So we went to bids. We got a lot of interest. It's a big project. That's one reason, 172 kilowatts. But not just that, we'd had interest from those people that gave us the feasibility studies. They knew about our project, they bid too. So we had a pretty good spread between the highest and lowest bid. And it was at this point that we had our first real controversy, because most of the bidders had bid to supply foreign-made solar panels. And there was a group in the church that thought we should buy only American-made. And we looked into it very closely, and we had to admit that American-made solar panels were not better. In fact, maybe not quite as good, and the warranty was no better. And the cost was quite a bit higher. So we, in the end, decided to go with Chinese-made panels because the rest of the project, about 3/4 of the project, still was American made. We had local contractors with local labor supplying local wiring, local racks. So most of the project still we justified as being American made. Now here we are, almost a year later. All of the solar panels are up on every church, the batteries installed, and just today the switch was thrown on the last church. They're now all 5 producing power. So we started this for environmental reasons, but we did some quick calculations. With all 5 churches producing power, they'll produce about $90 worth of power on a sunny summer day, and maybe about half that much in the winter. In total, they'll save Open Door churches about $20,000 a year. That's hard for us to ignore. So all in all, the congregations are very happy with the project. They're happy because we showed our youth and our grandchildren and our children that a dedicated group of people can make a difference. And in doing so, we learned that we think churches themselves are an underutilized resource in the fight against climate change. Invariably, they're large buildings. Usually they'll have a south or a west-facing roof slope, and they're full of people who care about the environment and care about making the world a better place. So we think in Salem alone, we started when there was 1 church. Now with our project, there's 6 churches with solar panels. And it seems to us like there's perhaps a dozen more that could have solar panels. And in Oregon, perhaps hundreds could have solar panels. So we don't have to wait for somebody else. We don't have to wait for the other person to do it. We can do things ourselves. So we're happy with our project.